Overnight, unrest across America, sparking new protests nationwide. Here in the nation's capital, violence taking place just steps from the White House.
Swarm over the cabin. Eventually, the driver is dragged out and beaten by the mob. Guests, many are in flames. More than half have imposed curfews. A car on this street is on fire. Windows smashed.
That night, protesters with a significant escalation. On their 100th night of protests, they tossed gasoline bombs. Those Molotov cocktails cracking with Dems pulling on the pavement, bystanders trying to slap out the fire. Echo mantra. But it has also been the summer of tear gas, burning storefronts, and sometimes in your passion.
We live in some crazy times right now. The world is in unrest. There's a lot of political warfare going on right now. And I would attribute a lot of these problems that we're having right now to a lack of godly men in our society. Broken families, broken homes is kind of the systemic reason, the foundation of why some of these problems are happening. I got some stats here real quick. So on marriage, right now, currently in the United States, 50% of all marriages end in divorce, 60% of second marriages end in divorce, and a whopping 73% of third marriages end in divorce. This is compared to in the 1950s, less than 20% of marriages ended in divorce. So we have a huge problem going on right now. And talking about obesity right now, 42% of Americans are obese. That's nearly half of American citizens are overweight. Compared to in the 1950s, less than 10% of people were overweight. Now I know that there's a lot of other factors that play into this, but I would say one of the most fundamental reasons is we have a lack of godly men in our society. Currently right now, depression is at an all-time high. It's calculated that if we stay at this current rate of where we're at right now, within 10 years, 60% of teenage girls will be on some type of antidepressant. That's ridiculous. That's over half of our teenage daughters and sisters on depression medication. Why is everyone depressed? Why is everyone overweight? And why are all marriages ending in divorce? I would say the fundamental reason, a lack of godly men. So currently, church attendance on a regular basis is sitting right around 22% of Americans attend church on a regular weekly basis. Now that is compared to back in the 1950s, the rates were close to 60% of families attended church on a regular basis. Now I think that there is a correlation between people stopping from going to church and now these problems arising. The reason I do believe that is that if you take a godly man that is described in the Bible and you attribute those characteristics to men these days, it would solve a lot of the problems that we're dealing with. What does it look like to be a godly man in today's society?
I understand that I am too brilliant a man, too perfect in every single metric, too big, too strong, too smart. I can fight too well. I'm caramel. I'm beautiful. It would be a shame for me to not service these females. I am a gift to females created by the one above. That's what I am. So what am I going to do? Stay at home and bang a six and save my money? No. I'm going to roll up, flexing. Come through, bam, champagne, bang, yeah, supercar outside, yeah, okay, 5-star, boom, 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 first class. Because I'm a G.
So Andrew Tate has gained a massive following over the last year, mostly by young men, with the agenda of regaining quote-unquote masculinity and taking control of your own destiny. But is his ideology congruent with the Bible? Today we will be looking at what it means to be a godly man based on biblical principles. Now, if you are a woman watching this, ask yourself, are these the types of traits that I'm looking for in a man? And if you are a guy watching this, ask yourself, do I embody these traits? So a really important characteristic of a godly man is that he's trustworthy. It talks about this in Proverbs, that you should be able to trust what this man says. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. You should never question whether he's hiding something or not. Another main characteristic is that he's hardworking, meaning that he's not a sluggard, he's not lazy. He actually focuses on the Lord's work, but then also earthly work as well too, to provide for him and his family. A godly man is courageous and strong, but also patient and gentle all at the same time. So how can these things coincide? Courageous and strong does not necessarily mean that he can beat up anybody in the room, but it means that he will stand firm for what he believes in and do whatever he can to protect his family, but not at the expense of him being prideful. This is where the patient and gentle comes in. He should be patient with his loved ones and with other people around him, not trying to cause arguments by any stance. Also, he should be gentle so other people want to be around him. A godly man is slow to anger, quick to listen, and seeks after wisdom, which means that he isn't quick to just open up his mouth and raise his voice, but rather actually look for a solution to these problems out of love. Another fundamental characteristic is that a godly man should be forgiving. He doesn't harbor hate or malice in his heart, because that's just going to branch out and affect him and his family in negative ways. But rather, he turns it over to Christ and forgives so that he can move on past that. Here's a huge one I think is super poignant, is that the man is confident, but not prideful. Now, often those two things mix, as we could see in the case of Andrew Tate. He's very confident, but he's very full of himself. So how can you be confident but not prideful at the same time? It's really important to have your confidence in the Lord instead of having confidence in your own flesh and in yourself. That was what drives a confidence, because now you are humble, because it is not you that is able to move these mountains or do any of this stuff. You give all the credit to the Lord, which is what a godly man should do. Now, this is the one I think is one of the most important characteristics, especially in this generation, and that is having sexual integrity. And what does that mean? So yes, it does encompass being 100% faithful to your wife, but it also encompasses fleeing from sexual immorality altogether, which means godly man does not watch pornography. A godly man stays away from institutions such as strip clubs or anything like that. He has such sexual integrity that even when he's a single man, he's being faithful to his future wife. Now here's an interesting one. A godly man does not use crude language. He does not curse. And this might sound like it's not that big of a deal, but having crude language is not a sign of intelligence or confidence. It's actually a sign of the opposite of those two things. It's a sign of putting up a mask, trying to hide behind some type of facade, and also trying to fit in just because everyone else does it. So a godly man should rid his lips of unfruitful talk. That includes swearing, crude joking, and all the above. Now, I also think that a godly man should take care of his body. Bible talks about that your body is a temple of God, and we should respect that. Now, does that mean that we have to be working out 6 days a week and, drinking protein shakes all the time? No. But I do think that taking care of yourself, eating healthy is honoring God. So I'll wrap this up and I'll say another very important characteristic of a godly man is that he does not seek the approval from other people. His identity is not in the way he dresses, the job he has, or the girlfriend he has, or the car he drives. In fact, he doesn't care about any of those things really at all. What he cares about is the approval of God, because God should be the head of every godly man. He should fully submit himself to Christ. His submission to Christ should actually speak to the confidence that he has. Now that we've looked at some characteristics of what it looks like to be a godly man, how can we apply that to today's society? You might think that the Bible was written thousands of years ago, You know, we can't apply all those traits to us today, and I would say that that's not true at all. So we were talking before how Andrew Tate has kind of become the poster boy of what it means to be a masculine man and how to solve your problems in today's society. But I would disagree with that mystique that he puts up. To society nowadays, what it means to be a masculine man, you got to do it all yourself. You can't let anyone else tell you what to do. It's a dog-eat-dog world. You got to claw your way to the top. And oh, by the way, disregard women and hustle after money. And that's kind of the mindset of what it means to be a masculine man. But I would disagree with that completely. I would say that we should replace these images that we have in our head of who it looks like to be a masculine man and replace those with Jesus. I actually think that Jesus was the greatest man to ever exist, and we should try to embody what he did. And I think the huge distinction between being a confident and arrogant, self-made and self-infatuated man should be replaced with a confident, God-fearing, self-sacrificial man. The most important thing that a man should embody is love, but not love that society says is love in today's age, but rather love that the Bible teaches. God says, this is how God demonstrated his love for you, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So even though we didn't deserve Jesus dying for us, he did it anyways because he loved us so much. So that kind of sets the tone for what love is, and it's a self-sacrificial love. It's not a what can the world or what can this person give to me to benefit me. It's rather what can I give to somebody else? You know, what can I self-sacrifice for them? That's that love that we're really seeking after. The type of man that we need in society right now is a man that stands for truth, but also loves. But loves in a way where he puts the needs of his family, his friends, his loved ones, everyone above himself, and he self-sacrifices for their needs rather than looking for what the world can offer him. Now, I mentioned before that a man needs to stand for truth, and I think that that's another really important thing that we as godly men need to do in this society today, is that there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, and we can't just take our families and hide under a rock and be quiet about our beliefs. No, we need to stand for the truth, and Jesus is the truth. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And we know all the other strong biblical principles that are in the Bible that we need to stand for. This is an invitation to all the other godly men that are watching this, that it's time that we step up and we stand for the truth, and we defend our families. One of the biggest reasons why we are losing values in our society is that even the men that are in church right now, they're compromising their faith and their morals. They're starting to conform to the world, and the Bible definitely warns us against doing that. It tells us not to be lukewarm, to play on the fence. You know, we either choose God or choose the world. For anyone out there that's watching this, you know what it feels like to compromise your faith and your beliefs, and we need to get away from that. We need to turn towards God, embrace God's grace and love in our lives, get back to the foundation of the Bible, stop conforming to the world. So the devil lies in our ears, and he tells us that, well, the rest of the world is doing. It's not that big of a deal if you participate as well too. And that's a lie straight from Satan. That's a slow fade from doing what we're supposed to be doing to now conforming to the world. A biblical example of this is Lot, you know, with Sodom and Gomorrah, is that Lot did not conform to carousing in sin. He actually stood firm, and the Bible actually says that his heart was overwhelmed with remorse for the people around him. His soul was stricken. And that's the way that I feel right now in society. It's tough to see, but I know that God does not want me to conform to these things of the world, that we're supposed to be set apart. And I think as godly men, we need to now stand up, stand for what's right and what's true, regain the foundation that the Bible lays for us, so we can regain stronger families, regain stronger marriages, have more disciplined children, and help society. Well, thank you for watching. God bless you. Again, always remember to love thy neighbor.